Hello Internet! Category here with an unboxing first look at a new game. Well, new to me. And if you've watched any of my videos, I'm pretty sure you'll know by now that I'm a bit of a sucker for sci-fi. So when I saw this pop up on eBay for a very reasonable price, I couldn't help myself. And the game we're looking at today is Struggle for the Galactic Empire, a solitaire game by Joseph Miranda, published by Decision Games. Now, I've read a little bit about this in the past, and it always seems something that's a bit interesting, but not interesting enough to jump on immediately. No, I wasn't rushing out to get it, but because it was so affordable, this sealed copy, it would have been rude to say no. I've not played a lot of Decision Games to be honest. Some of their magazine stuff, I've played Phobos Rising, one of their mini game series, which I did enjoy, except for a couple of cheats you can get around in that game. But I'm interested to take a look at what's inside here. So, first of all, let's have a look at the back of the box. A little tear on the cellophane. The struggle for the Galactic Empire. In the far future, Earth is a distant myth. So it's on a galactic scale, this game. There's one player. The counters represent whole fleets. 2 to 4 hours playtime. Medium complexity with very high solitaire, because of course it's a one-player game. Now, there's 352 counters included. I know that 100 of these counters, threats are generated by over 100 randomly drawn chaos markers. So while you're building your Galactic Empire and trying to keep it together, you'll be putting these random events, I'm guessing in some kind of chit draw system, and just trying to maintain a stranglehold on the galaxy, which is rebelling against you or being attacked by external threats. So it's a real grand strategy game. I mean, it's covering an entire galaxy. So I'm really interested to see how they pull it off and just what the pieces look like in reality. So let's get the cellophane open and see what comes inside. Now, the first thing we see is Struggle for the Galactic Empire solitaire computer game. Only 1995 on download or CD. So I might have a quick Google of that later and see if that still exists or if it ever came to fruition. Yeah, interesting that advert, which is odd considering you've only just bought the game. They're already trying to flog you a computer alternative, but still interesting. Here we've got the requisite baggie of baggies and a blue D10. Just the one dice for resolving all your conflicts and situations. Now, here is the rulebook. 32-page rulebook. Getting the same box art on the cover, in grayscale to 7 printing. So you've got your little setting the scene, little bit of fiction there by the looks of it. And 2-column rules, broken down in the standard wargaming case system to help you quickly look things up. And yeah, there's good explanations of the counters there. Not a lot of example graphics within showing you how it goes. So when I give these rules a proper read, hopefully they're not too obtuse to get through. Yep, so you've got the different empires here. How resources work, colonization, aliens, and the optional rules here to make the game even heavier. So Imperial Order, Transhumans, Imperial Nexus. A lot of these things don't mean a lot to me so far. I mean, I can guess what a Stargate and an expedition is, but it's definitely looking to get into it. Hey, starting on page 22, so 21 pages of, well, minus a little bit of fiction at the beginning. That's 17, 18 pages of actual rules, then you get to scenarios. So this comes with, how many scenarios in total? So 7 different scenarios. So it does have some replayability there. Also with the way you draw the chaos markers for the random events, I think that will add a lot of replayability to the game on its own anyway. And you've got a Bit of designer's notes also, more explaining both the universe and how things work within it. And here chaos event marker explanations. So for when you draw the different chaos markers, exactly what they mean and how to interpret them in the game. And on the back, chaos index changes, chaos operations table. So these are just a few charts for the game for guessing how much chaos is introduced at certain points. So I'm going to try and show you things as I can. Here's the map as well. You've got the main galactic core and you've got all the different sectors around it that you can visit. Just up here you've got a sample sector, so it shows you how to read the sector boxes. And down here there's a little random table for randomly selecting the sectors. Basically a percentile roll, but where there's not 100 sectors it splits things out differently. On this side of the map you've got a chaos resources track, a little couple of charts about the chaos markers, a turn record track and a little sequence of play here for moving through, and a little box up here for Imperial markers available. So I'm guessing that's a kind of like a little holding box. The map itself is really clear. It's obvious which sector's which. The text is really readable, but at the same time it's a really nice picture of a galaxy. It really gives the theme that you really gives up the impression that you're looking at an entire galaxy. And when it's covered in counters moving around, I think it'll be really good. And of course, with the little charts and extras around the edge, all seem very helpful. Let's go get this map out of the way back and we'll look at what else is in the box. And here we got a couple of play aids. So here's the chaos marker explanation. So just like those last few pages of the rulebook, it breaks down what the different chaos markers are, so you don't have to necessarily keep the thick rulebook on your table. The Galactic Empire Expeditions table. So again, this is due to something to do with the expeditions optional rule for some kind of exploration of unmanned systems, I imagine. Military and morphogenetic CRT with some DRMs explained there. Again, a bit of a combat chart there. Oh, again, more handy charts. Usurpation table, Independent Empire recruiting table, Extra-P table, Alien and Expedition resolution table. Again, once I favour the rules, these will be of more use to me, I imagine. And this one's a double-sided one, so you've got the Chaos Forces summary, Transhuman variable table, Suppression table, Chaos operations table. So, guessing seeing how the different possible chaos markers interact with you in some way. Again, it's not on very thick card, but it is thicker than paper, so it should stand a bit of a passing around the table. And lastly, there are 2 sheets of counters. Now, at first glance, I believe they are both identical. And they are double-sided where needed. So these white ones with the triangle back, I believe these are the chaos markers. Galactic Crusade, Defections, Aliens, Alien Messiah, Dark Empire, Biomech Predators. Not sure what these counters are. Some kind of these target markers are on the systems, so obviously some kind of systems control marker, I imagine. And you've got a turn marker for the turn track. You've got different fleets. So again, once I've read the rules, all these should come into play. Should be understood quite nicely. Now, there's a bit of a shame that some of the registration's quite off, because you can see there where it says transhumans, it actually is printed off the edge of the counter onto the next one. And that is the same on both counter sheets, so it's a bit of a shame it's so offset, but I'm sure once they're all punched and clipped, they'll be looking quite nice. Get most of this back in the box now. So that's what you get in Struggle for the Galactic Empire. So, keeping the rulebook out because I'm going to have a little read through this now and hopefully get it to the table very shortly. Hopefully the rules aren't too heavy to get my head around, and I'll let you know how a play goes on. So, I've played this game a couple of times now. I'd say I've given it a couple of learning goes and 2 full games. And that's because I did find it tricky to learn because of issues I have with the rulebook. I'll give you a couple of examples here. So, firstly, you've got the sequence of play in the rulebook here, which breaks down each phase of the game, of a game turn. But there's no reference to where in the rules those bits are detailed with. And it doesn't get laid out directly in that order either. So when you're learning the game, you've got to kind of read it all and read it back and then really cross-reference yourself. And it's not a huge amount of rules, but it's enough to be jarring, and especially when you're trying to look something up for clear up what you're trying to do. Also in the game, you've got this pool of chaos markers, which you pull a couple of them at the beginning of every turn, and they give you the events that are happening in this galaxy. And to look them up, you've got this chart here. And now I pulled one. I pulled a Imperial Elites Demand token, and I could see it right there. I could see a picture of the token I'd drawn, but there was no headline of where it was. Luckily, I found it in the middle of the Galactic Enlightenment. There's a Imperial Elites Demand Privileges, and that section should have had a bold title and a line break, which they just hadn't put in. It's just a little bit of formatting that they've given you the info, but they've made it a lot harder to find what you're looking for. I feel the other real issue I had with it is the first scenario. It gives you an Imperial Order unit and a handful of Nexus counters. Now those are optional rules in the game, and this is on the first scenario. In my opinion, the first scenario should not include any optional rules whatsoever, or those rules aren't really optional. So I'd read all the rules except the optional rules, thinking, I can sit down, I can play. And I went to set up my first game, and all of a sudden I had to get one of those back in the rulebook, reading more of these sections that I'd skipped before, thinking I wouldn't need them in my first place, and I could build on them in the next game. So that was a bit frustrating. But overall, I really, really like the game. When you get through the issues with how it's presented to you in the rules, the core of it is really good. You've got this sweeping grand galaxy you're taking control of. Each turn is an entire generation. There are alien attacks coming in and being quashed. There are rebellions happening and strange space events affecting parts of your empire. There's so many things going on, and it's a really, really interesting scale. I mean, I've played Space Empires 4X, but the things that happen in a game of Space Empires 4X effectively are in a single one of these sectors, and in maybe a turn or two, maybe 2 of this game. And the scale of this is so much grander and beyond what anything I've ever played. Quite like it. Another one of the things I think would really benefit from a change, though, is these chaos counters. So each turn at the beginning of scenario 1, you've got to pull 24 of these counters and work through them to put the galaxy in a state of chaos ready to fight. But I found that 2/3 of those counters I was pulling, I'd cross-reference in here, read the rules about them, and then I wouldn't actually put the counter on the map anywhere. I'd just go straight into the discard pile. Or there would be times I would get a counter, but I'd just put it down on the turn record track to note something. I think this game would be vastly improved if the Chaos Pool was just a deck of cards, and each card could have the event name on it and the rules that you're cross-referencing in here constantly. Some of the cards you'd be putting to the side to note things until the end of the turn, And sometimes you'd have to pull a new counter out and place it on the map because of something that's happened there. But I think it would just be much cleaner and just save all the cross-referencing. One thing I like about this game, though, is it is hard. It doesn't hold your hand. There's constant threats appearing left, right, and centre. There's always a challenge. There's always something to overcome. And to be honest, I haven't got a win from this game yet. I mean, I've only played it a handful of times, but every time I've not been able to get the chaos factor down. There's been too much coming at me. I've managed to get to the end of the game without being wiped out on an instant kill, but the victory points I've had at the end, I started with a Galactic Empire that was struggling, and I ended the game 10 turns later with a Galactic Empire that was struggling, just in slightly different ways. So, there's the dice rolls do matter. There is a random chance to it. It's not purely mechanical, so there is the effect of the randomness in it. I may have just got unlucky, but it is entertaining, and there's always a fire you're trying to put out somewhere. And just as you build together a big force to take out some alien invaders, the next turn round, that big force that you've piled happens to be the one that rebels against you. And it's a constant flip-flop between thinking, oh, I'm doing great, next turn I can get this done and this done and this done. And then you pull your chaos counters at the beginning of the next turn, and the situation you thought you were in has completely changed. And there's new threats coming that you didn't see, and I just enjoyed having that fight. So I suppose there's only one real question at the end of this. Do I recommend this game? And it's a tricky one, but I'd have to say yes with caveats. If you're a science fiction fan and you want to play something which is really grand in scale, there's a lot of fun to be had here. It's not the best game I've ever played. I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. Like Space Infantry Resurgence, I think anyone tactically minded will enjoy that, even with the sci-fi theme. Final Girl, even if you're not the biggest fan of horror films, there's a lot of fun to be had here. I think to play Struggle for the Galactic Empire, you have to be a fan of grand galaxy sprawling sci-fi, and you have to have that desire to run that empire. This is the second edition of the game, and I think a third edition could be greatly improved by a rewrite of the rules from the ground up. Ditch the old SPI style case system for the rules and have something which introduces things in a more turn-phased manner. And replacing the chaos chits with cards which give you the rules, so you're not constantly cross-referencing between multiple player raids all the time, I think would really, really help. I have had fun with it. It will be staying in the collection. This will not be going back out to eBay. I will be playing some more scenarios. But Decision Games, if you ever think of doing a third version, give me a shout. I've got a laundry list of ideas for you. Now, back off to try and save my Galactic Empire once more. Until next time, happy gaming!